on. Well, I believe we are going to be live here. It is 3 o'clock. Let me take a look and see what we've got going. Oh my gosh, we are full of attendees. This is great. Welcome back, everybody. Double D, Doug Dalton here. And today, I like to surround myself with positivity and beauty. And so, a man that envelops positivity into everything that he does and rides with such elegance that I thought, man, who else should I bring on than none other than my friend RDog. And so welcome. Thanks for being with us. Longtime SRAM guy. Why don't you give us a quick intro?
Hey, I'm RDog. I live in Aptos, California for the winters, and I usually head up north to Canada for the summer, and I just try and ride my bike every day. Just be at the right place at the right time when the dirt's good. So, yeah, I'm lucky to be able to do what I do and have the companies that support me. Um, yeah, I just really appreciate everything. So, roll with the punches, I guess.
Awesome. Right in that sentence, you used a word, Aptos. And for those of us that know kind of the evolution of maybe 26-inch wheel dirt jumping, why don't you give us a quick history of Aptos and maybe a couple of your homies that may have escalated to the top levels with you as well that all come from that little zone.
Yeah, I mean, lucky, very lucky to grow up here. There was probably 7 of us that all grew up in Santa Cruz, Aptos area, riding together, and we all made jobs out of it somehow. Mainly in like the freestyle, dirt jump, slope style world. There's not too many racers out of Santa Cruz, but we're all still doing it for the most part, and it's been a crazy, crazy ride. We've all kind of gone our own separate ways now. Not a ton of people live here, but this is where it all started, and this will always be home for us. So it's a cool connection to have throughout the mountain bike world, is to have our like close friends, and we always catch up with each other on the other side of the world, or whether it's right here in our backyard still. It's a cool thing to be a part of.
Well, and I think one thing that has set your career and maybe some of these guys apart is the dig piece, right? A lot of people ride, a lot of people hit dirt jumps and have great style, but maybe give us a little background on the dig part and what that has done to influence your style, because of the riders that I've always watched and liked, I feel like that's been a big part of your game.
Yeah, totally. It's a huge part of the sport. Not everyone realizes that for the most part, but I mean, trails don't build themselves, and you got to put in time if you really want to, ride a trail a certain way. If that's what you have to do, is go out there and build it yourself or maintain a trail that you've built in the past. Um, Especially with how many people are riding bikes these days, there's a lot of wear and tear on the trail. So you just need to get out there and throw some shovels or just rake or clear trees. It's all part of the sport, like I said, and you see more and more kids getting into it, the whole digging factor. And I personally think I ride better if I, put my efforts in on the trail. I know every square inch of the trail. You see different lines you wouldn't normally see, and it just, you're more in tune with the track. So, or the dirt jump, whatever it is you're building. There's so many different styles these days. Yeah, it's almost addicting. Like, I'm just as addicted to riding as I am to digging. So,
Well, I've also always said that I think that physical activity keeps you guys in shape so that you can be the stuntman that you are, and take a few of those hits. But yeah, I think there is a mental preparation there as you're packing that lip or landing, that you know exactly where and how it's going to throw you and pop you to, yeah, again, create things that no one else is even thinking about. So yeah, totally.
exactly.
All right. So Aptos to Canada. And so we're all familiar with it. The crank works, your in it, you're building for it. You know all the guys. It is. We just had the Super Bowl. For me, doesn't even compare to Crankworks because it was the most amazing event. Give us, or for some folks that haven't maybe been out there, and let me go over to our chat, because if you guys do have any questions that come flying in, please let us know, because we'd love to, make this as personal as possible. But let us know how Crankwork feels.
Oh, it's especially the Crankworks in Whistler. It's a one of a kind event, man. I highly recommend everyone needs to experience that if you're an avid mountain biker. The vibe is just insane. Everyone's so stoked just to ride. Like literally, you ride from 10 in the morning until 8 in the afternoon. And if you're too tired to ride, there's plenty of events to go check out, and whether it's downhill or pump track, or there's always something going on. Um, Pretty much every company is there set up with their booth, so you can get involved with them a little bit if you want to ask questions and see what they have coming out in the future. But the riding is just the best. Meet new people. It is. It really is. I can't think of another place where you can get that much riding in a week. It's crazy. And the people that you meet throughout the week, like whether it's on the chairlift or on the trail or after riding, whatever it is, everyone's there to do the same thing, which is ride. So everyone just gets along for the most part, which is what I'm addicted to. I just want to ride with people that are stoked, and new people from different places. It's get their feel of the trail. It's a very unique place for sure.
That's wild. And, it's not like where it all started, but it's where that like amount of action really, really came to fruition. And so,
of course,
back in the day, and back when you could win a slope style event with a backflip, and I was standing there with, I think it was Timo Pritzel, and he was the flip guy at the time. And he's like, "Oh, I don't want to do this run." He looked at me, and I was like, "Oh man, you're gonna flip that whole container, aren't you?" And so, sure enough, and he was checking his bike, and and away he went. And sure enough, it was either checkers or wreckers. So I remember how it went, and I don't want to talk about it. But tell us about being up there, being in a start house, and hanging with your guys, and really all you want is everyone to be healthy, but at the same time, there's money on the line. Like, what's it like?
I mean, the sport progresses so much every year, but that week especially, people train all year round just for that one slopestyle run or whatever it is, the best trick. It's very stressful, and that's all you have to think about all week is just this one slopestyle run. And you've done all your homework, you've ridden the track, you know exactly what you need to do. And that's just how you win right there, is you got to put in the time. And seriously, every year it gets so much gnarlier with the tricks and the combos and back-to-back tricks. It's the progression of the sport of mountain biking it's through the roof right now. It's crazy. Like you never know what you're gonna see when it comes to finals, when someone's been holding a trick because they're gonna see if they actually have to do it,
Oh.
And yeah, that's always the highlight of it, is the slope style that Saturday evening or Sunday morning, whatever it is. You never know what you're going to get these days. Those dudes are crazy.
Right. And having been in the crowd and seeing people like unconsciously jumping in the air with their hands raised, like jumping and screaming. Yeah, it's wild. Like you can't not do it. So yeah, pretty awesome. Cool. Well, that's, again, like you said, holding it in the bag if I have to do it, man. I just that's something that I don't quite have, which is I think
Yeah,
very
there's some strategy behind it for sure.
so. Training. I know how it goes down because I have woodwork just like 5 miles away. But for those folks that don't just happen to live next to the woodwork, what do you do? What's training? How do you find this place? Where is this foam pit? Where's this magical mulch pile? Like, what does it take?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up doing it into a swimming pool. Luckily, my good friends, the McCalls, they lived right across the highway from me, and their parents were cool enough to have a full-on ramp into their swimming pool, and that's what we did all summer long. Um, but yeah, now you need a foam pit. That's where it all starts, or an airbag. Then you have airbag landings. And then you can take it, once you figure it out, the basics, you can go to mulch, which is like roughed up, soft material, like kind of tree bark, you know? Um, so if you do fall or make a mistake, it's not the consequence of dirt, right? Um, and you kind of just got to start small, know your boundaries, whether it's just a 360 or a backflip, and then you kind of start adding the bar spins and the tail whips and the double flips. It's endless. It really is.
Yeah, and when you start to talk about those combos, that is where it almost turns you guys into like a musician, right? You're doing three or four things at once, and then making sure you lift your foot up so it goes over the seat or whatever it takes. But no, it's super impressive, and again, fortunate to have been able to watch and see that progression. So we talked about kind of like where it came from, how we're going to prepare for it, where's it going, and maybe this could be where we could maybe integrate like what has the equipment done for you. I mean, we had the Pike
Oh,
DJ, that was sweet. We finally got a fork that was like we weren't scared of, right? Like a 32 mil
yep.
fork, you could hanging around. You're like, I don't know if this is good for me or not. What is the
Well,
equipment part
the
for it?
Argyle was good. That was like the go-to fork, like in 2008, 9, 10. You know, that was like a legit fork for us. Because we kind of had to like makeshift slope style bikes per se. Whether it was just a hardtail with a little bit stronger parts, or we were having like cross country bike, short travel with like dirt jump parts on them. Um, and then the gears going all the way down to set a 7-speed cassette and a really tiny derailleur. That's huge for us because it's lightweight, compact. You don't have a big old chain flopping around. The Pike DJ was a huge, huge upgrade as well, 'cause how light it was, how stiff it is. The adjustability, you can get it down to like 100 mil, 90 mil of travel, whatever your bike kind of, whatever you recommend, really. The brakes, like when we first started, you'd want like a hydraulic gyro, so you can do as many bar spins as you want. But they only made mechanical ones, so that wasn't really in the cards because they didn't work very well. Um, but yeah, now the bikes are insane. It's like we're cheating if you were to compare it to 10 years ago. Yeah.
All about 36 spoke wheels just to try and keep them from exploding when the tire blew off. But yeah, um, no, I can remember, again, being from the frame side when first call for full suspension. And we're like, really, what for? And then I'm like, oh, it's time to hit that road gap on a short travel bike so I can, start doing some tail whips and, all the things. I'm like, wait a minute, what? So, downhill bikes gave people the confidence, I think, to start hitting some of those bigger, features, and then all of a sudden, and I can't remember exactly which rampage it was, um, but it rained, and all the lips went from like a little thing to get you off into a cliff to all of a sudden this dirt became sculptable, and people started to again. It was like a major shift in how people were thinking, and it just happened to be a rainstorm came through and made it work. And so,
Yep.
again, I love the combination of luck, but really, like you said, the McCalls, people, enabling. We had a few folks in Whistler that were the enablers, and still making great trails today, which is cool. Um, have you seen, like, kind of as slope styles grew, right? We've got one down south, we've got one in New Zealand, we've got one in Leger, or wherever. How has that kind of affected you? And forever the great Todd Barber, like making a slope style, say, kind of scoring system, if you will. Like, what did that do to the sport?
Yeah. Well, with slope style, now everything is one course. Everyone hits the same jump, same wall ride, same drop. So you can kind of score it a little easier, you know what I mean? It just comes down to trick, not so much line choice. The cool thing with Rampage, you have a blank canvas and you build your own line, and you can throw tricks in if you want, and there are better lines than others. So then automatically you get a better score if you have a gnarlier, more exposed, bigger drops, bigger jump line at Rampage. Um, and that really sets it apart from the big dogs to the people just participating. And I was usually just a participant at Rampage, to be honest. I was never there to win, and the dudes that are there to win they're on another level. There's 10 dudes there that could all take the win, and it's the second they get there, they're trying to build the gnarliest, craziest line. So uh, yeah, it's two totally different worlds. Slope style is very one track mind, as many tricks as you can pack into one run. Rampage, the way the scores are is just overall riding, line build, yeah, just your overall performance. So two totally different styles of judging. And me personally, I've never been a fan of judged events. I kind of go out there for myself, ride. If I ride good, I'm happy. But some of these dudes want that gold medal, and I have a lot of respect for that. So they do them,
Yeah,
I'll do me.
yeah, which is self-preservation, I think, is a good part of that. So we want you to stay healthy. So you're healthy now. I see your fingers maybe together, but that's okay. You don't need all of
Yeah,
them.
dig an accident. We're good though.
All right. So what's the future bring? Where are you heading? What's the next project? If you can tell us, how does that, that you are the number one viewed Instagram athlete on the SRAM team, I think, in our Rock Shocks, portal. So, what's the next project? What do you got up your sleeve? Is there anything you can talk to us about?
Yeah, for sure. Well, since events are kind of a big question mark this year, um, we kind of gotta focus on doing media stuff, whether it's photo shoots or video shoots, um, personal projects with stuff that you go out and build and film for, say, track or SRAM, or if we're doing product stuff, if like Trek has a new bike coming out, we can go out and film a release video for that. Um, Fast House has a new clothing line coming out in March, so we can go out there and do photo shoots for that for the catalog and whatnot. Um, it it's crazy. It's really hard to like set things in stone right now, whether it's going to be like okay, March 1st, you kind of got to start this. It's like, it's pretty up in the air, and people are like, all right, like let's do this before this date, before the release of this bike. So it's it's kind of just like juggling all these different products coming out for me, and filming in certain locations or shooting with certain people, other teammates. It's cool. I'm really busy right now, which is awesome. I'm more than stoked to just be out there riding and shooting. So um, it's all focused on media for me right now, which I'm stoked on.
Nice. So I still kind of consider you the young gun, but now looking at the Trek racing team, maybe not necessarily the young guy anymore. So who are some of the guys you're riding with, and what do you see, kind of in their future this year on kind of the race side?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been a racer, but I'm a huge fan of racing, and I love watching all the World Cups, and seeing the young guys come up and start to grab podiums in the elite. But yeah, the new RockShox Trek team, I bet they'll turn some heads in the next couple years here. Ethan Chandro, he's got a lot of potential. He's a big kid, and he can lay down a solid run. Great rider, great style. I really enjoy hanging out with Ethan. And then Tegan, he's a local Whistler Pemberton kid, and he's a little guy, and he flies. Like, I have a hard time keeping up with them. They're very talented. And then it's cool to see Valley get on a Trek bike. I'm hyped on that. She's going to make a name for herself over the next few years. She already has, but and then Jamie, he's kind of the underdog a little bit. Came out of nowhere last year and grabbed a fourth place, I believe. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so they all have a ton of potential, and I'm really looking forward to following that team over the next couple of years. So yeah, I'm definitely not young anymore. I'm 33, so
All right. So Trek, huge pedigree in racing. Trek and SRAM share a lot of the same, kind of values. We're both Midwest companies. John Burke and Stan Day are probably some of the leading advocacy guys in history, which is pretty awesome in the history of cycling. So making trails, creating infrastructure. But when it comes to Trek racing, led by still Jose Gonzalez, is that true?
he does the suspension, yes. He's the
And so
suspension guy.
for those of you guys who don't know Jose, he comes all the way back from Team Green, Team Kawasaki, back in the day. And so, having worked with Jose, he's man. When it comes to consummate professionals, he's one of those guys that you're always surprised that it even goes to that next level. What's it like, R&D with those guys on the race level? What's that like? Or,
Oh, they're way over my head. Like, I just ride the bike. They tell me what the bike is doing. Like, I can give them little bits of information here and there about whether I'm bottoming out or it's too stiff and not getting enough traction, but they really are down to the T of what will make this bike work better. And I've learned a lot over the years just working closely with these Trek guys, and they are fully committed. And every time a new bike comes out, I'm like, how can it get better? And they keep doing it. And whether it's suspension or stiffness of the frame, it's yeah, it's crazy. I'm very impressed every time I do a test with them.
that's awesome. Yeah. Their designers and our engineers work really close together. And RockShox from time to time does get the ability to do some, projects, whether it be with the guys at Scott or, the brain stuff, but reactive. That has been a huge win for Trek. And I know you've got reactive shocks on a couple of your bikes.
Yep.
How does that, those things really do feel different. What do you see that's an advantage there with the track bike?
Yeah, they do. I honestly didn't know the first time I was riding the bike that I had a reactive shock on. I believe my first bike with the reactive was the new version of the Remedy. Um, and I had so much traction. I like was having a hard time like getting a little side hit like flick on the trail. I'm like, what is going on? Like, are my tires too low? But it was honestly just the new design of this shock, and I felt glued to the ground, traction wherever I needed. And they kind of explained to me how the shock worked. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't really make sense to me, but it obviously works. So keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I like it. And again, I think we had a conversation earlier, right? I used to get to test suspension, and then it got to a point where I was just irrelevant. So it's fun to watch those things progress beyond kind of where we are. So
Yeah.
man, it's cool. And tying it all together, I always say it's the innovation that keeps me in cycling. I know it's the progression and just the stoke for you, but is there anything else you want to kind of throw out there from a positive guy, the RDog? Like, what keeps you going? What's the what is there an underlying motivation, or is it just genuinely just
Oh, I mean, you just got to surround yourself with the right people. I'm a big believer in that. People that are stoked to ride, get out and dig, travel new places, check out new riding zones. If you got a good crew, you're gonna be stoked, and someone is gonna lead the way. And whether you're following on the trail or they're behind you, it's gonna be a sick lap no matter what if you have the right people with you. Um, that's honestly my biggest thing is just keep your friends close and keep the wheels rolling.
I love it. Surround yourself with great people. Well, thank you very much for being with us, man. It's a total it's an honor to have you. All of our SRAM athletes are family, and like I said, man, I'm glad you're healthy. I'm glad you're staying stoked. Um, for everybody that's out there, we're going to head on over to another talk, and I'm going to run you through a half hour of suspension before we head on back to the lounge. But again, thanks to the folks at CABDA. This has been amazing. Thank you, RDog. Thanks to our friend
Of course.
JD SRAM for getting us all together. But again, on behalf of 3,600 folks at SRAM in 9 countries and 20 locations, thank you for supporting SRAM. RDog, thank you for being part of the family. And keep the rubber side down unless it's up or going around. Do what you want. All right. So again,
Cheers, man. Good talking.
create a great day.